On the 16th, here at City Hall.
It's back again.
Uh-oh. We got
No, he fixed it.
Amy here. Okay, I understand Jesse's gonna be late, and he wants to vote on, by phone.
Correct, Mayor. He would like to join you by phone. You would need a motion to allow him to participate.
Make a motion to let him vote by phone.
Second.
Second.
All in favor, vote.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon? Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Okay, invocation.
5:35.
Okay. Thank you, Arlene.
Oh, he didn't show up?
Nope.
Ay, ay, ay. Amy, would you give an invocation? Could you do that?
No.
I'll put you on the spot.
No,
We have
Rabbi Rabbi Greenberg's here.
Rabbi Greenberg is here.
Are you the substitute? You can give us a prayer. I wish you would. All right, thank you.
I could fill in.
Everybody raise, please. I mean, it's your job, it's your profession. Thank you, sir.
So back in 1991 in Brooklyn, during the riots in Crown Heights, a community I lived in for about 12 years, the mayor of that time, Mayor Dinkins, came to visit the Lubavitch Rebbe, who was the spiritual leader of World Jewry, and he expressed the idea of trying to bring the communities together, the two communities together. The Rebbe's response was, it's not two communities, it's really one community under the direction and leadership of the city. And I would add, of course, under the leadership of God Almighty. It's what unites us all. And when we reflect on that, we reflect on the idea of all humans being created in God's image and here as a mission to bring godliness to this world, to make this world a perfect place, make this world a kind place. We will fulfill that purpose, why we're here in this world. And this is what unites us all, when we become united through the direction of God Almighty, bringing that idea of education to the children and to all of us, the idea that there's a higher power. Let that serve as a beacon of light to the city of Bonita Springs, such a beautiful place of kindness and companionship. Let Bonita Springs be the shining light to all cities across the globe. Of course, as we say in the pledges of allegiance, we're one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let God bless this august body to come up with the right decisions, enact the proper laws and ordinances to make this place a place of kindness, a beacon of light, a place of friendship for all people of all walks of life.
Amen. Thank you, Rabbi. John, would you lead us to the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States.
to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Caramba? Here. Councilman Purdon? Councilwoman Carr?
Here?
Mayor Steinmeier?
Here.
Councilman Corey?
Here.
Councilman Gibson?
Here.
Councilman Forbes?
Here.
Okay, approval of minutes. I don't think we have any changes except for Jesse. We already took care of that, right? Okay. Mayor's welcome. Y'all welcome. I'm glad to see a lot of friendly faces out there. Most of them are on the payroll. But that's good. Anybody have public comment on the agenda? Nobody. Okay, moving along. 8A.
Okay, Mr. Mayor and Council. First item we have is a public hearing to consider a petition to vacate a portion of the public interest in 3 feet of the eastern side of Spring Lane. And with that, I will turn it over to Jay Sweet, who just got
Yes,
home from
Jay.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Jay Sweet with Community Development. What we have is a request to vacate a portion of Springs Lane. Make sure I'm doing this correctly. So just to give you a rough idea, the location of Springs Lane is on the west side of Vanderbilt and north side of Bonita Beach Road off of Imperial Shores. So that gives you an idea where the overall site is. This area that we're talking about is a lot at the dead end of the street. So they're looking to vacate a portion of the right-of-way there. Here is a survey. I'm going to give you a better shot of this. But the survey, you notice that the right-of-way juts into their property and takes a little clip out rather than as not a cul-de-sac and it's not a T turnaround, but this is the way this property was developed years ago as far as the site subdivision itself. So here's the situation we have. They wanted to basically vacate this 3-foot strip of property. And the reason is, I'll go to the next slide in a second, they had an error in construction. And they were afraid they were going to get too close to the water in the back, so they moved the house forward. After they poured the slab and put the walls up, they found out they had come too close and that they didn't meet their 20-foot setback for the corner of the house. So if we look here, you can see they actually have a solution that they could do in order to meet the setback. They could modify their structure. They came up with a structural way to do it so they could continue to build and not get behind schedule. They would like not to do that, so they wouldn't have a funky little 2.5 foot by 2 foot or so jog at the corner of the garage. They could have a garage that would look normal. And so there's where we are with this. Staff has no objection to the vacation. It is at the dead end of the road. It is at the dead end to their property. It doesn't affect anybody else's access. And so we don't have an issue. Letters were sent out. There were no objections from any of the utility providers. So our recommendation is to go forward with that. The question.
Approve.
Second.
Okay, any comment? I've got a comment. Now, this piece of property was never platted or what? Nobody owns the road or?
So what we have here, and this is something that the previous city attorney and I had many discussions about. We have a lot of roads in the city that they did sales maps. And so these subdivisions were done, they weren't platted, they wrote legal descriptions, and they did a sales map. Very common in the 50s, 60s, and Lee County even through the 70s before the uniform platting codes went into effect with the state. With that, what has happened is that we have these roads that are in the public domain, but they're privately maintained because no one's accepted them for maintenance. This is one of those situations. Audrey Vance and I had agreed for a long time that what happens is that the city, being the local arbiter of the public interest, has the authority to vacate and to have jurisdiction over these without taking any maintenance responsibility, because somebody has to step up. There's no ownership on the tax rolls, no one's paying taxes on it. They're definitely in the public domain. And so that's the process that we had done in the past and we continue to do today.
And they're in the city, so we have some sort of responsibility.
I believe that we have the responsibility to, act
To the public.
to the public and to look out for their best interest. And that's what we attempt to do here.
Any other comment?
We still need to open up to any public comment.
Okay, any public comment on this?
Mayor and Councilmember Purdon has joined us. He's on the phone.
I didn't hear you.
Councilmember Purdon has joined us. He's on the phone.
Birdie's here? Okay, roll call, I guess.
No.
Public comment.
Public comment.
Public comment, we haven't, nobody up there. No.
Seeing none? Okay, take your vote.
Councilman Purdon,
Come back to him.
Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba,
Aye.
Aye. Sorry about that. I had some technical difficulties. I vote aye. Too bad the boxes aren't opened on the.
Motion passed.
Correct. I believe that was an I from
Yes.
Councilman Burden plus in Morse code.
Yes.
Okay, that's 8A. 8B, what do we
Second-
got there, Mr.
Next item is a
Attorney?
public hearing, an ordinance of the city of Bonita Springs, Florida, providing for adoption, comprehensive plan amendments to create the property rights element as required by state law, and furthermore directing transmittal of the amendment to the Florida Department of Economic Opportunity, providing for intent, providing for severability, providing for effective date.
And this is
This will be the adoption.
to bring us up to speed with the state of Florida.
Correct. Good afternoon, Jacqueline Genson for the record. So this is the adoption hearing for the comprehensive plan amendment that we transmitted to the state back in December. This is a requirement by the state statute to go ahead and create a property rights element. If you recall, at the transmittal hearing, the recommendation was to go forth with the, I'm going to call it a model language that the legislature had provided. And at the transmittal hearing, there was a recommendation to go ahead and tweak that language. We did tweak that language. It's the language in yellow that was sent up to the state planning agency. There were no objections or comments from the agencies, so we are here today to present adoption documents for you. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer. That's simple.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any other comments?
And it is a public hearing, so we
Yeah,
do
any
need a
public comments?
Public? Okay, roll call.
Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba, Councilman Purdon.
Motion carries. 9A, presentation of flood hazard reduction. Yes, ma'am, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to introduce to you our floodplain manager, Aida Williams.
Is your microphone on or is it me?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I
Thank
can
you.
now.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to introduce to you our floodplain manager, Aida Williams. She's going to go through some updates to our flood hazard reduction ordinance. Some of these are recommendations that we have, and some of them we'd like some direction from council on to move forward so that we can ensure we continue to provide a Class 5 rating for the citizens, which gives them a reduction of their homeowners' flood insurance as well. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. Welcome.
Good evening. It's nice to be back to council. The last time we had modified and made any updates to the flood hazard reduction program was in 2018. So with our upcoming verification visit from FEMA this fall and in anticipation to updated maps coming from FEMA, it requires some updating, cleaning up some minor language to make sure that everything's being enforced, and more importantly, that we're actually getting credit for all of the policies we currently have in place. So Bonita's commitment to the program has actually rewarded it with a Class 5 with the community rating system, which is a voluntary program. What the voluntary program does is it memorializes all of the efforts of compliance we have to undertake for federal regulations and state regulations anyway. We just simply subject ourselves to an audit to prove that we're following the regulations. By doing so, our structures located within the flood zone are receiving a 25% discount off of their flood insurance on a yearly basis. Properties located in the X zones are still receiving a discount. It's just at a 10% for the lower premium. Not that Bonita needs any other reasons to brag, but as of 2018, we were one of 36 in Florida to actually hold the Class 5 ranking. That Class 5 ranking, as you can see, provides significant discounts considering the premiums. Now, the flood insurance premiums backed by FEMA, Bonita is going against the trends here. The majority of our neighboring communities are actually seeing an increase in private insurance. Bonita is seeing an increase in that FEMA-backed policy. And a lot of that's related to the insurance premiums being discounted by our Class 5 ranking. So we have we've condensed it down to 10 categories that we're looking for modifications. One, we're gonna be seeking council direction on today before we complete our revisions with the state's floodplain management office. The most significant change we're gonna see in the updated policies is that FEMA is requiring us to remove an exemption previously applied to replacement mobile homes. The old method allowed replacement mobile homes to be installed below flood. FEMA says if you want to keep your class 5 rating, you got to do away with the exemption. No ifs and or no option here. If we elect to not proceed with that, we will immediately this fall be retrograded to a class 9 community and only be receiving a 5% discount. So considering that last year's savings was almost $2 million in premiums for our residents, we are recommending removing the exemption. So all replacement mobile homes now must meet the requirements of the Florida Building Code and be elevated to design flood elevation.
So they can still have a mobile home, but it has to be higher.
Correct.
Okay.
Now, the item that we're going to be seeking direction from council on is that when we calculate substantial improvement regulations, better referred to as the 50% rule, we reference the property appraiser's set of data. That's the only published set of data for the structure values. Now, by ordinance and state definition, it says that we take the tax assessed value for the structure and we multiply it by a factor determined by Lee County. The last 3 years in a row, that factor's been 15%. What we're seeking is based on industry trends instead of that being a variable in our language to make it a flat 20% for the increase. So this set of numbers is actually indicative of a Bonita property and what the difference that would mean. That we receive, based off of our current calculations on the top, they would only have $239,000 to spend over a cumulative 5-year period of time. Their private appraisal came back at $407,000. So we're seeing appraisals come back double the value. What we're asking is to help bridge the gap so that way the property owner is not having to pay for an appraisal until it's really necessary for a larger project. Some of our other minor tweaks and adjustments based off of updated FEMA language and state policy for their deck statements. We just simply have to adjust our definitions on at-grade accessory structures. These would be accessory structures exempt from the Florida Building Code. They are all meeting and being built to compliance. They're going to continue being built to compliance. We just need to adjust the language. They are limiting a size restriction on that, but have allowed us saying, based on your community needs, we do have the right to override that and continue as normal. Agricultural structures, it's the same process. They're currently allowed. They meet the intent of the code. It's just updating the language to make sure we're getting credit for what we currently enforce. We've expanded a lot of our language in our code that applies to plan reviews of finished floor and flood requirements to all areas of the community. This allows us to tap into some previous credit we weren't receiving. Our language previously said in flood hazard areas, you're going to do this. Staff reviews flood elevations for all areas of our community, whether it's in the mapped flood zone or not, because we have state required permit elevations, local, a development order, a water management district permit. We've got a finished floor requirement for multiple areas. So we're enforcing all of those. We're just revising language to make sure we're getting credit for that. And again, cross-referencing our regulations, we already have limitations for placement of fills, and that way we don't have a mountain built in an existing neighborhood that's flooding out the rest of its new neighbors. And that cross-references to our existing land development code drainage requirement. So we are not having contradicting code, we're simply saying we limit and to see this other section that's governing it. Alteration of a water course. We already have it in our language. We're just updating that should someone choose to change a contour of a riverine, that they submit that analysis to FEMA for approval instead of it being strictly a local approval. Variance and appeals shall be heard by the hearing examiner. Our last ordinance had suggested creation of a board of adjustment and appeals, which has not yet been created, based on the quantity of variances, which in the last 5 years, we've had 0. We are defaulting that back to a hearing examiner for convenience. We've updated our definitions, and most importantly, a coastal A zone will be adopted. This is in preparation of our updated maps coming from FEMA. We're having an introduction of a LIMWA line. It's just they're breaking down how much wave action meets what kind of definition. These definitions are already in the Florida Building Code. We're simply catching our ordinance up to those. By doing so, it's going to make us, there's going to be a new bank of points available to us for the audit this fall of 500 points. So this is a good thing, just by updating our language. We're also expanding our list of required information we ask for on our preliminary plats. A lot of this we're currently enforcing for it to have finished floor elevation requirements that may be established by other district permits such as water management district. This means that if a community is coming back 3-4 years later for the last 4 or 5 infill lots, the information's there to best protect the neighborhood that everything has built to the same set of standards and compliance. So again, to circle back, the only thing that we're really seeking clarification and guidance from council to finish our process with the state is increasing our 15% to 20% for a market value assessment, or any questions you may have.
Mr. Mayor? Is the rate 15% most of the time, or has it ever been above 20%? How?
I found the documents with Lee County Property Appraiser that they had filed with the state of Florida going back 3 years. For those last 3 years, it had always been 15%.
Okay, I'm supportive of the 20%.
We actually have 2 neighboring communities currently applying the 20%, that instead of having a variable factor, they've just gone to a straight 20%.
I'm in favor also. 20%.
Do we need a motion for that, or?
I don't believe so, because we're just seeking guidance today. We'll actually be coming back with ordinance revisions for the first and second readings at a later point.
And Aida, for clarification, I just want to remind everyone that it does not preclude the property owner from still paying for their own independent appraisal if they wish to do so.
Correct. That is still their privilege, that they can submit an independent appraisal when they disagree with evaluation from the property appraiser, adjusted hopefully now by the 20% factor instead of the 15%.
Do you have to have flood insurance?
So it depends on what location you're in and how your property is financed. At this time, if you are located in the 100-year flood zone and you have a federally backed mortgage, federal requirements indicate you must.
You don't have a mortgage.
If you don't, it's up to you. It's completely optional. No one's forcing you to purchase.
And the only person you can buy it from is FEMA.
No, FEMA about 4 years ago opened it up to private market as well. So you can now purchase it through FEMA or through a private carrier.
Progress.
It is. It's no longer a monopoly.
Okay, oh, very
Thank
good.
you, Aida. Thank you.
And then just for clarification too, that the city does currently, if you are a resident in the 100-year floodplain, you are currently receiving a 25% discount on your flood insurance. And structures out of the 100-year flood zone are receiving a 10% discount. And that is due to the Class 5 rating that we have, which is, in fact, the same class rating that Lee County has.
Now, 5 is 4 better than 5, or 6 better than 5, or how does that work?
The lowest is 10, so yes, 5 is right in the middle. 4 is better than 5. So for every step interior you go up, you receive an additional 5%.
Okay, thank you.
What do we have to do to get to the next level?
So during our 2018 results, we actually qualified for enough points to step up to a tier 4. There are some prerequisites that are pretty significant for additional studies and analysis that would have to be accomplished before we could actually make the next step. Point-wise, we're there, so we're doing a great process of enforcing the regulations.
But also, we want to make sure we can sustain that. It would not be beneficial to move up and then have to move back down, so.
Okay, so you don't have to buy it from FEMA. You don't have to accept somebody's appraisal. The appraisal's coming from Lee County, is that?
So right now, the numbers that so the 50% rule in this valuation that we're talking about, it's only applicable to structures that do not meet current flood code compliance. So if you're a newer structure.
Requirement, what is that?
So the current flood code would be, do you meet the required elevation of +1? So building code says whatever FEMA says, we add 1 foot to that. So you have to meet that requirement. If you don't, then you're subject to that 50% rule. So a compliance mechanism might be elevating your structure, or in the instance of a lot of our residents in Bonita Bay, it would be adding flood vents to your existing garage, elevating your AC. So the goal is that a resident, as long as they don't trip the 50% rule, which is a cumulative total of improvements over a 5-year period of time, that number cannot exceed the property appraiser's valuation, half of that. So if the structure is valued at $200,000, you have $100,000 to spend over a course of a 5-year period of time. If you spend more than that, then you're going to have to bring your structure into current compliance.
And again, that appraisal comes from where?
So the published set of data we have, it's the property appraiser that has the published set of data. So it's the tax assessed value for the structure. If a property owner disagrees with that number, they can pay for it and submit a depreciated cost analysis for the structure. So a private appraisal showing an updated figure. As long as that appraisal has a higher number, we'll use their numbers.
Because it's coming from Lee County, a property appraiser.
Well, our numbers are, if a property owner wants to get an appraisal, they can call any state certified appraiser to complete it.
Where would they get this information, the general public?
We actually have several links on our website, and we publish even my cell phone number for all residents and offer that guidance through the process.
Yes, Fred.
A question. If someone gets a higher appraisal, that helps them on this, but doesn't that mean that the property appraiser will accept that appraisal and that'll be their taxable appraisal?
That is actually one of our number one concerns. Going through the process, it does not. So the property appraiser does not look at us as the little sister trying to play tattletale. They have no mechanism to record any of the information from the appraisal. So they do not factor it into their tax calculations. They don't care, they don't ask for it, we don't release it. The only mechanism that might affect their property taxes being reassessed would be if they were doing a lateral addition to their property. So a bigger footprint equals larger taxes. That would be the trigger to adjust those numbers, but not an appraisal. We do not release that set of numbers, even asking their office. They don't care, it messes up their math, they don't have a place to process it.
Okay.
Anything else? Thank you.
Excellent.
Pretty complicated. It's our federal government for you. Okay. Consent agenda, number 10.
So move.
Second.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mayor Steinmeier,
Aye.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson,
Aye.
Councilman Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Crumba,
Aye.
Councilman Purdon,
Aye.
Hey.
Councilwoman Carr.
Aye.
Okay, 11A, Bonita Blues Festival. Laura Carr, I think this is your item.
Yes, sir. So you want me to present what you want me to explain?
Well, you brought it up, it's your bag.
Okay, well, back in 2019, the day before the Blues Festival, Bonita Springs shut down due to the pandemic via the president and the governor's rulings. And these folks were left out in the bag. There was even mention that Disney got to use the whole another week. And why can't we just get why can't we get the weekend? And they had no backup, no-nos. Nobody would ever imagine this would happen in America. And God, please, never again. But, so, this is a very popular event. I think the gentleman who runs it's in the audience. And if he wants to just tell us a little bit, and they're willing, we're gonna just get it back going and do like what I think family does to family. I mean, we treat community. But if you wouldn't mind.
Good evening, everyone. Kevin Berry, founder of the Bonita Blues Festival. And one little adjustment, it actually wasn't shut down the day before the festival. It was shut down an hour and a half before the gates were scheduled to open.
That was
Yep, there were people waiting in line to get in and all of that. I mean, I understand it was a very tough time right then, and you had to make a decision. I understand that. And
I wasn't in office yet.
no, you weren't. There was discussion at the time about trying to put some money aside, possibly when, if it was able to come back to help us, financially, since at that time we had probably spent $60,000 already. And there was 2,500, 3,000 people in town, bands in town, everything was set up. So obviously we still had to pay all of our bills. Luckily, we had probably the best sponsorship set up that year. And if we would have been able to do the festival, I would estimate that our money to give to charity that year would have been close to $100,000, just because it was the best setup it had ever been. And unfortunately, a pandemic hit, which pretty much destroyed us. So, and I know, obviously over the 14 years we were able to do the festival, it has been very beneficial to not only Bonita, but all of Southwest Florida. I can even tell you of 3 homes I know that were purchased here, because people came to our festival from other parts of the country, cruised around, checked out the area, liked it so much that they bought a home. One person was looking in Sarasota and decided, nope, I want to be down in Bonita. The only reason I know that, I happen to own a home inspection company. I happen to do those inspections, not because they knew of that, but yes, sir.
Do you have figures for your contribution to charity for 18 or any other past?
For over the years, we have I don't have the exact number with me, but roughly $430,000, I believe, we have given from the beginning of our festival to up to date. I think the last one we gave away, there's 3 charities that we work with, and I think it was about $17,000 a piece was the last checks we had given out. To each charity received about 17.
And local.
Keep the charity in Bonita Springs?
Our 3 charities that we work with are the Bonita Springs Assistance Office. We work with another charity called Music for Minors that helps kids in Lee and Collier County with instruments when they enter high school. Because if you want to be in the band, you can't rent an instrument, you have to own it, which I had no idea they did that. And we also fund the music therapy program at Golisano's Children's Hospital.
Do you have to give to those 3?
Those are the 3 we have worked with, and those are the 3 we will continue to work with, because we want to work with children, music, and locally. As it helps Lee, it helps, Lee County. There's some benefits to all around Southwest Florida, and especially in the Bonita Springs area. And I know they said there was talk about, helping us out with some funds, which obviously we'd be graciously happy to accept, because as you know, I talked with Laura today and everything, and the cost, even to do this year's festival, just on the 3 simple things of fencing, sound equipment, and sheriffs have tripled. And, we're not raising our prices for our.
Pay your entertainers?
Yes, we do. We pay them all, and we work the best deals we can. And when the entertainers are traveling, obviously they've suffered for the last 2 years also. They don't come in and play for free. It's a way for them to make money, and we're considered one of the anchor events that helps them make their money throughout tours.
Fred, do you have any comment?
Yeah, one is a question for Derek. When we made that decision, weren't we reacting to governor's executive orders and all that? We didn't just go off and do it.
Yes, we were, and we were also in a situation where we didn't necessarily have additional time to wait to see what other orders were coming down.
All right. Yeah, and
I've got a comment.
Fred's
Go ahead, Fred.
Yes.
If we were to provide you a stipend or whatever, would you be willing to at least give the city some PR, like where it was clear to the public that we were participating?
Oh, absolutely. And we, quite honestly, we have, from the beginning, we had set up, we always acknowledge the city from day one. When we first set this up, we came in and talked with the mayor and everybody in charge then. And at the beginning, they were, the park, they were letting us use it for free. And we've always acknowledged the city of Bonita as a sponsor, major sponsor of the event. And it's always in our program, on our website for the last 15 years.
Mr. Mayor?
Jesse. I think Jesse wants to speak.
Jesse, go ahead.
Yes, sir. I would be in favor of I wonder if Councilwoman Carr would be open to a friendly amendment. I'm good with giving them the $10,000 because, quite frankly, our policies cost them significantly more than that last year, and I didn't want to shut down anything public. So I'm okay with that. We didn't do Fiesta Bonita. We didn't do Celebrate Bonita the last at least year, maybe two. So I would be open to taking the $10,000 that we have for Celebrate Bonita, give it to the Blues Festival, and then that remainder differential can be the starting point for a Bonita Fest that we can do appropriately the following year, Celebrate Bonita. And we'll do it bigger, we'll do it better, and then we can take care of the Blues Festival. Because honestly, they signed all those people, they did all that work, and then we pulled the rug on them the day before. And I know we were following the governor's orders, but I didn't feel right about it back then. So they've given over $400,000 locally. I think if we give them that 10, we punt Celebrate Bonita. I think that's a really good way to do it, and we don't take any financial hit. So if you'd be open to that, I think that's a really good way to go.
Mayor?
Yes.
I didn't quite understand everything he was saying, so
Me either.
somebody could give me a translation afterwards, but I'd like to make a.
Okay,
Okay, let me finish talking.
You want me to re-say it, Amy?
No.
One at a time,
Just let me say something, and then you could react to it. But I appreciate the difficulty that the organizers faced when they could not perform. I think in fairness to the city, because I was party to that discussion, it was totally difficult. And virtually every event in all of Southwest Florida was canceled. And it wasn't canceled by the entities, it was canceled by the people that were participating because they didn't know how to deal with this incredible thing that hit us. So, it was unfortunate all around, and I'm sorry that you didn't get like the PPI, like a lot of small businesses were hit in a similar way, and because with the federal funding, they got it, but you didn't get it. I'm in favor of supporting you at the $10,000 level that's suggested by the green sheet, but I'm not in favor of taking it out of this Celebrate Bonita fund because we have assigned fund balance. We should do it that way. I think this illustrates a fact that Arlene alluded to in the workshop, is that we as a council need to address what we're trying to do with these events. What role, quote, city focused events should get supported by the council, and how we want to run them. That includes Celebrate Bonita, 4th of July, all the things that we think are iconic events. The city at one time had a policy about this, and that was that there were going to be a handful of these that we were going to support, and we didn't have to get that many, much help from anybody else. And at one time, there was a much higher funding, and the council at that time was concerned because the amount of money we spent on this was getting higher and higher and higher. So I think it's time for this council to come back and review what our policy is, what we want to do with private entities like you, and what we want to do with these things that are iconic things. Whatever policy we come up with is fine with me, but we need to discuss it because we're not following the previous policy that was articulated. You've done a great job. I wish you much success. I'm sorry that you had to go through that. There were other mechanisms that help different entities, and you just didn't qualify for that. So if we can help you a lot to be successful, I'm okay with that. I just don't want to I don't want to set the precedent that we're taking it from one to the other. That we have to decide among ourselves. Do we want to celebrate Bonita or not? Do we want to do it a different way? So if, in one of our future workshops, if we could talk about it, that's where I think. And I think we could incorporate some of the things that Jesse said, which I didn't quite follow. So he could put his 2 cents in when we have the workshop about what he was talking about.
All right, Amy, are you ready?
Jesse, you wanna rebuttal or something?
Yeah, please. Yeah, I heard most of what Amy said, and I'm sorry for the communication disconnect here. What I'm saying is that I feel it would be important to ensure that we got them the $10,000 because we put them out for significantly more than that last year. Additionally, I think since we have such a small amount allocated for Celebrate Bonita, rather than trying to do a half-ass Celebrate Bonita, we would just save what was left after the $10,000 differential and make it next year and do it big instead of taking money out of the unassigned fund balance and just putting it, because I don't like the precedent of giving anybody, money who feels as if there was some type of issue. But this one there clearly was, and I feel like since this was on the record prior to it, and they lost so much money, it would be appropriate to take care of it. I just don't think we need to take it out of the unassigned fund balance. I think we talk about punting, Celebrate Bonita till next year. when we
Jesse,
won't have
I'm
money.
sorry.
We can't,
You cannot,
Hey, one at a
cannot,
time.
we can't
cannot
understand what he's
understand.
saying.
It's hard.
We can,
Okay, can you hear me now?
no,
No, we can hear you, we can't.
Jesse, why don't we just vote on whether we should give a stipend to the Bonita Blues Festival? And when you're back here and we could talk about this, where we could all understand each other. That's what I would prefer.
We're
Yes.
getting into this.
Please.
So where's the $10,000
Wait,
coming from?
wait. One at a time. Let's end this conversation.
I make a
We're getting
motion,
nowhere with this conversation. Do I have a motion? Did anybody make a motion?
motion to approve,
Second.
What are we proving?
that, my green sheet.
Yeah.
One-time offering to assist the Bonita Blues, and if we wanted, Arlene, you want to speak to
I think-
Amy's idea
I
of the
think-
fungibility of money?
Yeah, I think that
I'll second.
the staff should determine where the funds come from.
Okay.
Or at least, we're in agreement, because there's a process, there's a precedent that's gonna be set by doing this that I don't approve of. So I would offer an amendment that the funding would come from a recommendation from the staff, but that we do it, if that's
Okay.
okay with you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I have a comment.
What was that?
So, you're gonna make that motion, and I'll second. I withdraw my motion.
I just make the motion that we offer the stipend to Bonita Blues Festival, and the staff comes back with how we're gonna fund it, with a discussion with the council at a later meeting, when we could talk about these things. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, really.
But they get it, they don't.
Yeah, but we shouldn't be doing this on the green sheet, because they're the budgeters, not us.
Okay, we had you got a motion, you got a
Yes.
second on it?
Yes.
Okay, I've got a question. You give so much money to charity, is that right? And how much money do you take in and take out of Bonita?
How much do we take in? Well,
Yes, how much do you take in to pay all these expenses?
I don't have exact
Doesn't-
numbers,
that
but I
doesn't,
can tell you that none of us have ever made a penny from it. All proceeds go to charity. We cover our expenses and the rest all goes to charity. None of us
How
at
much
all.
are your expenses then?
It varies each year. This year it's going up by triplicate. Just to give you a rough idea, the sheriffs, which in the past, the last show we did was $2,500. This year is $8,750. So, to give you absolute numbers, I really can't, because the numbers that are coming into us, it's going to be probably less we're able to give away this year because prices are coming to us tripled, and we are unable to, jack our.
I'm trying to balance what it costs to do this and what the benefit to the city is, because we're wear and tear on our parks.
Mhm.
And what is, if we could take $10,000 and give it to
Call the
to
question.
the to the Bonita Springs Assistance Office, we wouldn't need a blues festival.
You know, quite honestly, you can do whatever you'd like to do. We'd appreciate if you'd like to work with us, because I can guarantee the millions of dollars we've brought to this area over 15 years of doing this festival, from people coming in from all around the country and from Europe every year to spend time, stay in hotel rooms, Airbnbs, eat at the restaurants, all that sort of stuff. So that I can guarantee has been done over the last 15 years. And if
I was told you could have a 1099 from 2018 as to how much money you gave to charity.
I may have one, we may have one. I don't have that number in front. I can tell you, I can go back and tell you the numbers we've given away each year, but I don't have that information with me.
I'd like to call the question.
Is there
Really?
a second?
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Roll call.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crumba? Councilman Purdon?
To clarify, this is as the green
This
sheet
is,
is
this
written,
is on the
correct?
call of the question.
Oh, I'm calling the question? Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
No.
Okay, now, the next motion you're voting on is to approve the $10,000.
That's coming out of.
As is?
We're gonna raise taxes. No, I'm just kidding, I confirm with Lisa, we'll bring back a budget transfer later on to deal with the funding source.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please.
And who made the motion on that?
I did, or
Amy?
Amy?
It was Amy, Amy and then Laura.
I massaged it.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Councilwoman Crumba?
Aye.
Councilman Purdon?
Aye.
Oh, good.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Thank you.
Thank you, folks, very much. Appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening.
Success.
Oh, my God.
Okay, electric vehicle charging stations, Mr. Corey.
Yeah, the Technology Advisory Board has spent quite a bit of time focused on the increase in the number of electric vehicles in Bonita Springs, especially the resultant impact on clean air and the disadvantages a lot of people are facing that live in apartments or condominiums or rental properties with respect to being able to charge electric vehicles. Just for clarification, if you look up and down I-75, Sarasota has 165 charging stations that are available to the public. Fort Myers has 68, Naples has 74, and we have none as a community. So all this paper, they've attached a briefing paper, and what the Technology Advisory Board is seeking is simply to have the council approve further study in terms of how Bonita Springs can improve in terms of public access to electrical vehicle stations. The closest to us is on Collier Avenue in Naples, and the next closest is Punta Gorda. And so it would, the Technology Advisory Committee believes it would be a benefit to the city to see an increase in electric vehicles, and and to see if there's a way that we can encourage the market to develop charging stations or find some way to do it in a public-private partnership arrangement, but that's what they're asking. And they're just asking you to accept this briefing paper and to consider this going forward.
Is anybody here to speak for them?
John's here. John, you want to speak?
And who is he?
John, please.
I'm John Paul Doyen, and I was been driving this particular project with the Technology Advisory Board. Unfortunately, our chairman is not here tonight, and I would like to have him speak to you as well. But all we're asking is for your endorsement of a task force to bring more EV charging to Bonita. We think it would be very beneficial. It would improve tourism here, and we certainly don't want to be caught flat-footed and not prepared for this next generation of automobiles.
Yeah, could you find out all these charging stations, are they privately owned, or who owns all these stations that exist currently?
Right. Some of the charging stations Tesla has installed, some of the chargers Electrify America has installed. There are charging stations that hotels and condominiums have installed. So it's really a variety of
Yeah,
chargers.
any idea what it costs to charge?
Well, right now to charge, if you're getting the electricity from FPL, it's about 10 to 11 cents per kilowatt hour. If you go to an Electrify America,
How the private sector is handling this?
well, it's,
You say you got three different groups that have put some in already?
yes, yeah. In fact, in Naples, there are public garages on Fifth Avenue, and Naples has installed free public chargers in the garages. But we're not asking for the council to approve any money, we're just asking for an endorsement of a task force.
Yeah, we'll look into this, come back with some more information.
Be happy to do that.
Thing in the future. Yes.
Mr. Mayor.
Was there any coordination with FODOT, or did you talk to the Florida Department of Transportation?
Well, we're just starting out, and that's
Because
why
the
we're-
governor is putting in stations everywhere
Right.
up the highway.
Right. There are stations on 75 in other areas, not in Bonita. I have been in contact with FPL to ask them to install some. I've been in contact with Tesla to install some, such as at the center of Bonita, at the Publix location, that strip mall. And there are several other entities that could do it for us.
And why should the city get involved? Why isn't it, like, my son lives in a building where he pays a little bit more rent than his friend down the street who doesn't have a charging place in the garage for an electrical car. So isn't it up to the consumer?
It is up, a lot of it is up to the consumer. However, to enhance tourism, those people would not have the ability to charge, so we do need some public charging. This summer, FPL will offer free chargers at homes. If you have a home with a garage, they will install a charger for off-peak use, and it's free electricity during that time.
I think Free Enterprise is gonna take care of this.
I believe Free Enterprise will take care of it, but they need some prodding.
Fred?
Yeah, the MPO is really experts on this, and I would say what we could benefit and they could benefit by having like Don Scott, is really pretty well versed in this, come down and give a presentation on how the electric vehicles are increasing and charging stations, and there's all kind of charging stations. And they're not cheap, but I think it would be beneficial.
Mr. Mayor.
Pardon?
It's Jesse, I think.
Jesse?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I would say that I'm not in any way, shape, or form against electric chargers, but I mean, everybody be cognizant of the fact that you're looking at about $6 to $10 grand a pop. So, you know, I mean, I assume they'll come back and say that, you know, we need to install X amount based on the amount of people we have. But I would recommend that we definitely talk to the Department of Transportation in Naples and see who they buy them from so that we're competitively looking at prices appropriately. And then we can discuss the next steps later, but I would just want to get those things in their head as they start to look into it.
Okay, I think we made, Amy, yes.
I have some of the feelings that have been expressed by Councilwoman Carr in regard to this is private corporate responsibility rather than a municipal responsibility. And I do think that there are other government agencies that are trying to incorporate these. I'd like to have some better, if you want to work on this project, I think an important thing would be to look at the numbers that Councilman Corey said that are existing in other entities. How could they have 120 and we have nothing? There's something about where the nature of the ones that they have there, and, you know, are they in rights of way? Are they in, as you say, in shopping centers? I think that that's really where they're going to have to come. And you can charge an electric vehicle just by plugging into a regular outlet. It just takes a long time. I mean, so what you're doing, no, because they're doing that in our garage. You could laugh at that, but that's what they're doing. We don't have high-speed chargers in our building, and we have at least 12 electric vehicles that they're just putting in, and they do it overnight, and it works for them. And they probably take them someplace else during the day, but that's what they're doing. So it's not like someone who has an electric vehicle has to just keep it at the curb if they can't get to someone. We have electric outlets. I'm in favor of the high-speed ones, but I don't know if that's really our role to provide that, because we're actually providing for a client that is of a certain economic level, which I have an issue with. I have an issue with the subsidies that are given to electric vehicles, so we're just compounding that. So I think you need to do a little more information if you want us to participate in this, to make us understand why Bonita Springs is not included in those numbers. Because I think if there was a market reason, we would have them. There's something that we don't understand. So if you bring up that problem there, then I would be willing to address it. But I don't really think it's a government function to do this.
I would noted that under the infrastructure bill that was passed in January, there's $5 billion provided by the feds to locate charging stations. They're requesting states and counties and cities to spread those out, especially in the rural areas. The whole idea is to get over the psychology of charging as a hindrance to electrical vehicle purchasing. The goal is to put at least one charging station every 50 miles on rural routes, not the interstates. So the push is on for this. And if we look at what's happening in major states such as California, by 2030, there will be no diesel-powered trucks operating within the state of California. So we're facing something that's gained momentum. And the city of Bonita Springs and we just need to sort of understand that this is moving ahead, and we either try to keep up with it or we get run over by it. So the technology committee is not asking for money. They're just simply asking for a endorsement to proceed ahead to do the study that's necessary to see where we go from here. We should not have 0 chargers in Bonita Springs, and Sarasota have 165. So.
Okay, Mike?
Yeah, I agree with Chris. I saw it more of them just asking for permission to look further into this, what the other cities did to enable that many to get built. Not so much asking for money from us, but just to further go down the rabbit hole and find out what would be helpful for us to get them, whether it be through other companies coming in and doing it, or just maybe we have some zoning issues or something that might be a little more tricky for them to get around. The only thing with the infrastructure money, I would just make sure that there's no strings attached to that money. We don't want any adverse effects from taking it. But yeah, I wholeheartedly would like to see them go down this and see what else can be done to get these in our city faster.
Any chance of you bringing your chairman back next month?
Be happy to do that.
In a month from now?
You mean we don't want to hear from MPO that knows a whole lot about this?
Oh, yeah.
I didn't
Let's-
say that. I
We
wanna
have to
talk-
race.
I didn't say I didn't want to hear from
No,
them.
I think we ought to have them here and let them hear it too, and then they go from there with whatever they want to do.
What do you want now, Fred?
I would like to see MPO Don Scott come down and make a presentation on the charging
Who's
station.
John Scott?
Don Scott is the executive director of the Lee County MPO. He's also on the state MPO. This is one of his big topics of knowledge. So
Okay, you can invite, you're
I
gonna
can,
invite him?
Laura and I can, between the two of us, we can get him to come.
Very good, thank you.
All right, I'll s-
And the technical advisor chairman will be here in a month,
Yeah, well,
new information.
hopefully when he comes to do this thing for us, the whole committee can sit in.
Whatever, Fred.
Good.
I think we made some progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Thank you.
Okay. On to the next one.
City attorney's items, Mr.
I only have two really quick clarifications. One is that on the two land use items, I know that the connection was bad, and you may have heard one, but when I was clarifying that Councilman Purdon voted in the affirmative on both those items, just to get that in the record. And the second item is we did receive some correspondence from the supervisor of election indicating that, there's gonna be a general election November 8th. If we have any referendum we wish to put on the, on that election, as a frequent user of referendums, given our recent charter, we've just been asked if we have anything on there. We don't have anything on the staff level, but it's something just to ponder. We have a July deadline if there is something that the council would like to see put on for referendum.
Okay, anything else? That's it?
That's it.
City manager, our chief executive officer, our CEO.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'd like to ask Lisa to come forward to provide us the presentation on our preliminary 2020-2021 fiscal year-end financial report, and then she'll go right into the December and November financial reports as well.
Great. Good evening.
Yes, Lisa.
Hope everyone's doing well. This is our preliminary, I'm going to try to use this, there you go, our preliminary fiscal year 2021 that just ended as of September 30th. It's preliminary until we complete our budget process, which is scheduled to finish in March or April. What this slide gives us, it's very exciting. It gives us the the revenue type allocation for our general fund. These are unrestricted revenues that are very important to our operational, day-to-day operations. As you can see, none of the sources are significant when compared to the other. The highest is 41%. So what this shows us is we have a fairly healthy, different types of revenues. The percentages are very healthy and not really swayed to one or the other, which is something you don't want to have too high of a concentration in one type of revenue, because it can, be influenced by different economic conditions. This is a comparison for our general fund, again, unrestricted revenue, prior fiscal year to the most recent fiscal year that just finished. As you can see, everything is fairly consistent. These are consistent with the trends we've been telling you about every month. We've really had some growth in some areas based upon the economic conditions that we as a state are experiencing. So these are very healthy numbers. The expenditures, again, previous fiscal year, current fiscal year, these are our regular recurring operating expenses with very few exceptions. These are, you see, fairly consistent numbers from year to year, which again, we like to see. Our next slide is restricted revenues. These are restricted as to the use of the funds. The first that you see there, the building fees at the top, those are based upon a fee reduction schedule that we implemented. So this is a planned reduction in fees. So they are being reduced as we anticipated. The most significant one here is our road impact fees. I know we all receive an email each month telling us the collections, and this is great. This is a combination of not only the road impact fees, the larger of the numbers, it's a combination of residential and commercial last fiscal year. So again, just very healthy indicators for our area. These are the cash balances for the last 3 fiscal years. What we'd like to stress with this is that we do a lot of pay-as-you-go capital improvement funding, which means we accumulate the money and then we expend it. So when you see buildups in some of these areas, it's due to timing of our capital projects. And these funds, most of them have been allocated for capital funds. We have a note there that we are in the process of coming up with our general fund unassigned balance number. We are working on that, and as we get closer to the end of the audit, we'll have that for you. This is the highlight slide. What you can see here, these are year-over-year increases in our most significant revenue sources, and these are our most significant revenue increases. These are consistent with the trends we're seeing at the state level and that we're seeing here, and they're just very exciting. So I think it really, means a lot for our economics in our state as a whole. The next slide, as we have been talking about earlier this fiscal year, the communication services tax, that is down year over year, and it is a statewide trend. So it's not something unique to our area. The state of Florida had some revenue estimating conferences in January, so we always like to review what they say and see if there's anything we think relevant to our area that we'd like to call to your attention. The first bullet point there, very good news for the state as a whole, the initial 5 months of the state, and now you'll recall the state's fiscal year ends different than ours, so they start July 1st, and we start October 1st. So their numbers, they're kind of a leader for us to see where we're going. The first 5 months of the state level have exceeded their expectations. Again, great news. They are predicting that the residential real estate growth will continue in the near term. Now, the cautionary point, which we've heard before, non-residential real property, the values are anticipated to stay lower. The growth won't be as high, and that's because of the pandemic. Now, the good news and the mitigating news for the city of Bonita Springs is we're only 10% of our total property values, only 10% is non-residential, 90% is residential. That concentration is going to work in our favor when we feel these changes. We wanted to give you some cautionary notes that they have mentioned, because we don't always want to say good news. We have to be realistic. What they're talking about, and again, some of these we've talked about before, continues to be a risk for the sales tax collection associated with individuals returning to their normal purchasing habits. That's something we really have to watch, and they're watching at the state level. They do a great job of making predictions and monitoring those sorts of things. A new thing that they've added recently, which is no surprise, that they're concerned about individual households, their personal budgets, and the impact on those from inflation. Because we do feel that everyone feels that they're going to have to start contracting on some of their spending, which again, that's driving our sales numbers and the economy as a whole. Also, they mentioned that they feel there's going to be a diminishing effect from household spendings because of the federal stimulus payments have come to a stop. Because you remember, each household who has a child has been getting that direct deposited in, and that has just stopped. So again, those are just things to consider and us to watch as we head forward. So next we're going to go into the December financial report. The December financial report, it's actually October's our first month, so it's 3 months. However, it's really only 2 months of activities, because as we talked about in the past, October, from a financial standpoint, pretty much everything we collect in October and we pay in October was for services or taxes assessed in September, and we get them after they've been collected. So, and we do that each year, so it's consistent with 12 months of expenses and 12 months of collections. But we do like to mention that to you. Here's our general fund revenue. Now, this is the same slide that you saw before, where real estate taxes were only 41% at the end of the fiscal year. However, because we're sitting at December 31st, so many households pay their real estate taxes, and it's ad valorem here, but it's all as we know it, real estate taxes, to get the discount. The first discount starts in November. So we collect most of our real estate taxes within the first 4 or 5 months. So this is what we expected to see. Again, this is our general fund revenue, and we do fiscal year, the first 3 months of the fiscal year compared to the last fiscal year, first 3 months. So we can get a trend and see if there's anything we need to watch. Everything is fairly consistent here. Again, not a lot of data, but we look for any anomalies or any things we need to investigate. Similarly, these are the general fund operating expenses. We're happy to see not a lot of inconsistencies, so that's a good thing. Our restricted revenues, as we had talked about before, our building permits continue to be reduced as planned, but then look at those road impact fees. That is so exciting, and now this is a true number for 3 months for our building impact fees. And that is mostly residential, very little commercial so far this year, fiscal year. Again, our cash balances, I apologize, this slide's getting a little small, so I think I'm gonna have to do something with it so we can read a little more, but it's, again, three fiscal years of cash. And as we mentioned before, these fluctuations are driven primarily as our accumulating money that is designated for capital projects, and we accumulate it, we get the project going, and then we spend it. This is similar to the slide you saw before. 2 months of collections, but we're seeing the same sort of nice, healthy collection increases in the major categories. The neat one here is communication services taxes. The first 2 months, up 7%. Down 4 last fiscal year, so, we'll watch that one, though. We do watch it closely, but. Okay, so good news, and then, cautionary news. Won't be any surprise to anyone, but it caught our attention, and we thought we'd like to share with y'all. They just released January 2002, January to January, Consumer Price Index. And the Southeast region, it's my understanding, based on the data we obtained, is leading the nation. It's above the U.S. city average. 7.25 is the U.S. city average. Southeast region, in which we're in, is 7.8. And then one of the closer indicators geographically to us is the Tampa-St. Pete. That's 9.6. So again, this is just all the data we look at and we consider as we move forward, because inflation will affect our budget next year. We'd, be remiss if we didn't mention that when we say how great our revenues are. So, do y'all have any questions?
I think it's very good.
Okay, great. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you, Lisa.
Yes, what do we got here?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. My next item is we received some correspondence from the Lee County Commission, and they are looking for some direction. They were hoping that we will appoint an ex officio non-voting seat onto the Lee County Tourist Development Council, TDC, and they were looking for some direction from council on that. We would want for you to provide a motion on that.
Okay, I thought I'd nominate Jesse, since he likes to travel around a lot, but he's not here tonight. Are you still on the phone there, Jesse?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I am here. Thank you. I actually was going to recommend Mike Gibson, just because the nature of his business is tourist development. So I'm open to do it too, but I was going to recommend Mike.
Why don't you guys rotate?
Well, I guess I am the representative of the TDC currently. It's the last time we said it, so I'll continue to do that until the end of my term if you guys are fine with it.
When is the end of your term?
When both of our terms are up in November. On the TDC, it's.
Are you term limited?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is, if you read this, is that person who sits in that is supposed to move into a voting membership.
Yeah.
And they're wanting someone who will learn the ropes so that the person who votes knows how to do it, pretty much.
Yeah. How many years out are we on the voting? Because I was in the voting.
1 year.
1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it might be.
I mean, that's the only.
Anybody else want to volunteer? Jesse?
Well, I'd just like to comment, keep it as is, and in a workshop, let's bring this committee into discussion, because we want to discuss how, special events, all the committees that we are assigning people to spend time with, and this could be something that we discuss then.
Yeah, but
leave
it's on
my
the agenda tonight. We got to make a decision on
Well,
it.
I'm comfortable leaving you on, and then
Yeah.
we could always change it. I mean,
Yeah, or if Jesse wants to do it, I'm fine with that too. So.
No, I'm very comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with it being Mike, and you can as we get closer, you can make sure that you get whoever's next up at bat up to speed on the things that are going on and the things down the road, Mike.
Good, perfect.
Okay, good.
Jesse, I think it'd be good for your future too, Jesse. Okay, is that direction?
No, I think we need a vote.
So at the moment, it seems like the early favorite is Councilman Gibson.
Yeah.
Right.
So why don't we vote on that?
Okay, motion to continue to have Mike be the TBS liaison.
Second.
Councilmember Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba,
Wait a minute, I want to comment on this. As Amy pointed out, this is more than a 1 year or 9 month situation. We're gonna have to come up with somebody else come November, because he's term limited out. Is that the proper way to do that?
Could I just comment that most likely the person that will sit in Mike's seat will be able to learn from Mike and get 1, 2, 3 what the procedure is.
I prefer Jesse, because he's gonna be here for 3 more years.
Okay, well,
We have a motion and a second. on the floor.
exactly. So, roll call.
Councilmember Forbes,
Aye.
Councilwoman Caramba,
Aye.
Councilmember Purdon,
I think we already vote on this, no?
We didn't finish.
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr,
Aye.
Mayor Steinmeier,
No.
Councilman Corey,
Aye.
Councilman Gibson.
Aye.
Okay, Jesse.
I just have a few extra announcements to make, just to make everyone aware that tomorrow evening at 5:30 will be the city's public workshop on redistricting. To remind you all, every council member and the mayor are welcome to attend, but you may wish to reserve any public comments at that time, because this is a voting issue for when you're seated as council. We also wanted to, as we brought up in the workshop, that we could possibly make a 4 p.m. workshop on our March 2nd meeting. So our March 2nd meeting starts at 5:30. If we could start with a workshop at 4, at that workshop, we'll discuss park facilities. And then I did want to make the announcement that Laura Taylor heard from the Bonita Springs Fire Control and Rescue District Union that they have committed to do the 4th of July parade in the traditional format in the morning. So staff will move forward with their process of the traditional format in the evening as well.
Very
And
good.
if
It's
need-
nice to know that. Thank you. Thank the union for
Yes.
making that decision. Okay, mayor and council reports. Fred, you have anything to add tonight?
Yeah, well, I think a number of us were at the town hall at First Presbyterian Church that Byron Donalds did a great job at, and our esteemed city councilman Jesse Purdon was a good question asker.
That's right. Good job, Jesse.
Yeah. Now,
Amy?
I would like your indulgence for me to ask staff, and I hope you'll concur with us. We passed, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago, an ordinance permitting PACE to operate in Bonita Springs. We've had a number of years go by. I'd like to see staff have the opportunity to check with like the property assessor, Matt Caldwell, checking with the people that have used PACE, see what it's all about, how it's working, what's the good, and is there any negatives to it, and then come back and give us what they think. You're all familiar with what PACE is, I think.
Okay, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
That's fine. All right, you got direction on that? Okay. Anybody else? Amy?
I have a number of things, so please,
Okay.
I'm sorry. There's an opportunity for the city to highlight the city in the, we're having the Bonita Short Film Festival, and we can do a short video there at that festival where it's shown at the Prado and they have it. It will not cost the city anything, and I just am asking permission if I could get with the staff and Antonio and work on some kind of video where we highlight the city and say, you know, you're doing a good job or something like that. It's gonna be promotional for us, but we don't have to pay for it. So is that okay?
Great idea.
Doesn't Antonio get paid?
No.
No, this is a separate event.
thing.
This is an event for the Bonita Film Festival. They're offering that, well, through a sponsorship opportunity, there'll be a free opportunity for the city to have a highlight.
Oh, very good.
So is that okay?
Yeah.
And Arlene and Antonio would come up with something, and we could give you the transcript if you want to know it. The other thing is, and it was coincidental that Rabbi Greenberg was here today because I had prepared this, so please allow me to read this. It was with great sadness that I learned of the actions of two thoughtless young people out in the home of Bonita Springs resident Rabbi Greenberg. The entire incident was disturbing because it suggests that even in Bonita Springs, a city proud of its strong support for all faiths, that the evil current of anti-Semitism can fester. I attended the Solidarity event at the Shabbat Bonita. I thanked Rabbi Greenberg for his thoughtful and inspiring messages expressed at the sheriff's press conference. His suggestion to engage in acts of kindness to counteract the pall that the disturbing actions left on the goodwill of the community is a good one. And because I personally gave my feelings to him, but I would suggest, if the council agrees, that you allow me to work with staff to get a letter to him saying that the city supports him and the community, and we continue to be committed to people of all faith. Some kind of message like that, that we as a city are part of that solidarity movement. So if it's okay with you, we could just have them write it and the mayor can sign it, or we could all sign it, whatever you want to do. But I would like to do something from the city in addition to my own personal comments that I made to him, if that's okay.
Can you have Arlene draft that?
Oh, yeah, no, she'll draft it, and you know, it's,
That's all right, yeah.
you know, but I think it would,
I talked to the rabbi tonight, and he's
Right.
going through the courts. So it's out of his hands as far as what they do with these children.
but it's a note, and I'm not
You know, I mean,
focused.
it's a separate issue.
Yeah, I'm not focusing on the perpetrators, I'm focusing on the sense that we as a community, in a formal way, and in an obvious way, and in a tangible way, say that we still are in favor of freedom of religion for everybody.
Amen, amen.
And anyone could freely exercise that, and we don't accept that kind of behavior in our city. That's basically what, but Arlene will work on something, so, and then you
Very
could,
good.
and if we all want to sign it, we can, or if you just want to sign it for the city, we'll just figure it out. Let me see what else I have. And I've been busy, unfortunately, so I have to talk a little bit, but I think I did attend the Estero Bay Challenges and Solutions meeting that was held at Lover's Key, and I just want to compliment our illustrious Public Works Director and Assistant Manager Matt Feeney, because he did us proud, as he always does, representing the city and had a very knowledgeable interaction with not only Mike Parsons, the chairman of the water school, but our water steward and another doctor, I think his name was Dave Douglas, who was an expert in seagrasses. So we are very fortunate to have such an accomplished person working on our staff. And it's a complex issue, and I'm glad to see that we stood up for how we think they should be handled in the future, so I'm very pleased about that. I did go to the Art and Public Places meeting last night. That's why I did go see our congressman. I'm sorry about that, but there's nothing other than the fact that we're excited about some of these art pieces that they're in the process of being moved and being put into these places that have already been decided. So we should see some good things. And at 8 o'clock this morning, that's why I'm a little tired today, I went to the Horizon Council meeting. And I did mention that there's going to be a transfer of leadership there from Chris Spiro to Holly Smith, who's the former mayor of Sanibel. And the reason so there's a lot of movement in there in regard to the administration there. But two things I think we might be aware of. There's a a membership meeting February 25th where they're going to have a national flood insurance panel. So I don't know if we want to send Aida to that, or some of us might want to go to that. I don't know exactly where it's being held, but it's on the 25th. But also, there was Holly Smith, which you got the letter, I think Jesse sent it to us. I think that's what it came and you sent it to us. Was speaking to Senate Bill 2508. And I don't think there's anything we can do at this moment, but we after reading that letter and talking to people who are engaged with what's happening at the state legislature, I think we should be very much aware that there is a concern that the funding that has been proposed coming out of the state legislature circumvents those 2 years of mediation that we did to get the LOSUM formula adjusted. I think you know what I'm talking about. So she said there's going to be a call for action, but they don't have it right now. So again, if we get any more letters or any alerts, I hope that as a council we can act on it, because it is important. It would be so disappointing if after those years of working on this, that the formula that we got, that we thought worked, was pretty good and protected us, was circumvented by a funding quirk. And that's what they're working on right now. So she asked me to speak to the council about that, and that's what I'm doing. So I think that's it, finally. Thank you for giving me the time.
Okay, Laura, do you have anything to add tonight?
I echo Amy. I mean, we were in the same places and same things, and but I did make Councilman Byron Donald's meeting last night. He was terrific, as was Jesse, and I think Fred, you were down there too, helping out. Long week, long day. I just want to again thank Governor DeSantis for standing strong for Floridians and keeping our Everglades in his mind and our children in his hearts. So yay, Governor DeSantis.
Okay, I'm gonna chime in right now. So our governor that opened up the state when he did is the reason that we have good numbers for Lisa to say that we have a booming economy here in Florida. Some states are still locked up, locked down, pulling their hair out. So I appreciate our governor. Besides the $17 million. Yes, Mike, you got anything for us tonight?
I'm good, thanks.
Chris?
Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I wanted to echo what Amy said about Senate Bill 2508. I'll be a little strong with my words. That was a shady operation, because what they did was pass a conforming piece of legislation out of the Senate Appropriations Committee, which had no committee hearings that invited the public to that piece of legislation. I don't know why it got out of the committee as it did. I think those that voted for it are paying the price with the petitions that have been circulated by the Captains for Clean Water, by the Conservancy of Southwest Florida, and I would hope that they get the message that people are keeping their eye on what is happening with the water levels of Lake Okeechobee. So, that's one thing. Now, the good news is that the governor has, over the last couple of years, created a resiliency fund for coastal cities and communities of about $1 billion. A number of cities and counties in Florida have taken advantage of that for both planning purposes and for implementation. Now, what these resiliency grants provide is funds to try to deal with coastal situations arising from intensifying hurricanes, rising sea levels, and the impact on ecosystems and wildlife. And as a result, Lee County has now applied, as of Monday, for a planning grant And hopefully that application will be processed. I think that Lee County is very good at applying for those grants, especially when the governor is behind it. And we should see some benefit to that with respect to Bonita Beach. As you may be aware, Bonita Beach Road is the only road off I-75 directly to the beach. And we all benefit from the tourism that develops there. And Bonita Beach has had significant erosion over the last 12 months. So the resiliency program that the governor has implemented should provide funds to the county, and hopefully that we can see a improvement in what Bonita Beach looks like, which would favor our businesses, our charter boat captains, our fishing industry, the restaurants and hotels, not only in Bonita Springs, but Fort Myers Beach and on up the way, on up the river and so forth. So it's good news, and I'm hoping we see the results of that application come to fruition fairly quickly. That's all I had.
Well, thank you, sir. Okay,
Fred.
approval.
Mr.
What?
Mayor, I wanted to point out something that's good that's happening in Tallahassee. There are two bills, one in the Senate, one in the House, that's actually going along through committees that basically restores the rights of cities and counties to regulate smoking in public places. And it's, I would say, highly likely that those two bills will be passed and we'll be able to regulate smoking in public places within Bonita and Lee County, within Lee County, and Estero within Estero. That's the good news. Those people that support that should send an email. I'll be happy to send each one to City Council. Don't reply to it. It's real simple. You just copy, paste the addresses and send it out to the members of the committee that's voting on a House Bill 105, which is the House side of that. Now, the other thing is the Florida League of Cities will put out an alert asking us to go against that House bill. But I will tell you this. If they only had to go through one committee, that means that there is a lot of political muscle at the top. Because bills that only go through one committee, that's approved at the Speaker, the President, and above level. So it's going to be tough, but they still need to know what everybody thinks. And the big key is get your neighbors to send emails on it. Because if all of us send it, that's 7 of us. But if each one of you get 10 or 12 friends and they send, now that's 10 times what's 7, so that's 70. And that's what numbers count in this kind of thing, especially if you're against something. So.
Okay, Fred, is that the second time you spoke tonight?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, well, we missed Jesse. Jesse, you get one shot at, you should have spoke the first time. Jesse, do you have anything to say?
I think you saw it.
Went for dinner.
Oh, he's not, we've lost communication with him right now.
Okay, approval of the minutes.
So move.
Second. Any other
Councilwoman-
comment? Roll call, please.
Councilwoman Caramba?
Aye.
Councilwoman Carr?
Aye?
Mayor Steinmeier?
Aye.
Councilman Corey?
Aye.
Councilman Gibson?
Aye.
Councilman Forbes?
Aye.
Okay, public comment. Come on, public. It's your chance. They all work for us. I see that. Okay. Any other business? We're adjourned.